Alright guys, this will be for Unit 2 Lesson 10, and this will be our Part 2 video, and really we're just going to talk about how to reset the Pong game and polish this game up. Now, a very quick disclaimer when it comes to this video right here. This video has two parts, and the other part involves some helpful programming tips. I will leave this slide up here for you guys to take a look at really quickly. To really quickly run through what the tips are, is when you're programming, unless you are creating a function, a conditional, or a loop, every single line of code needs to end in a semicolon. Whenever you are making a function, conditional, or loop, make sure that you start and end those statements with a curly bracket. Here's an example of that right here. When you're making a function, conditional, or loop, we have a starting curly bracket here and a closing one here. But if you're not making a function, conditional, or loop, every line of code needs to end in a semicolon. From there, the last tip I want to give you is use camel casing to name everything. That means if you have something where you want to naturally add a space in it, for example, new script, you'll instead name it new script like this. The first word is all lowercase, then every additional word after that is kept together, but it's the first letter of each new word is a capital. So those are three tips I want to give you guys. If you want a more detailed explanation of all these tips, I'm going to actually link a video to this YouTube video posting so you guys can get more information on all this stuff and why it's important. But with that being said, here's what we're going to do. Let's go into resetting Pong. Now the reason, let's go into resetting Pong. So let's deconstruct this. Two questions for you guys. One, does the Pong ball always move in the same direction when starting a new game? And two, at what point should the Pong ball be reset back to its original position? Well, answer to the first question. Does it always move in the same direction when starting a new game? Answer is no. Second question. At what point should the Pong ball be reset? When it hits the goal. We're going to actually make all that stuff happen right now. So, the way we need to make this all happen is we need to first create a script that can randomize the ball's direction so that it moves in a new direction each time the game starts. From then, we're going to make a custom function that can control a lot of the stuff that we talked about, such as resetting the ball back to its original position. So, with that being said, let's jump into it. Alright, so I'm going to go here, and this should be roughly where you left off at. You have your goal. When the Pong ball touches the goal object, it adds a point to it, and that point is displayed on the screen like so. Again, for your guys, you guys should have your other goal working, and that goal should also have a score value associated with it for this player's goal. But let's actually talk about how we can actually make all this stuff work much more effectively. So, if I want to tackle this, the first thing I actually want to do is I want to just randomize the ball's direction so that it moves in a new direction each time the game starts. The way we do that, if we want to actually focus on the Pong ball, so I'm going to click here, and I'm going to go to where I have my Pong ball movement script, and I'm going to double click on it here. Now from here, this is what's going to happen. Right now, if we start the game, the Pong ball always moves in this direction right here. I want to make it move in a random direction. Here's how I'm going to do that. I am first going to just get an integer, and I'm going to name this integer random start, like that. And I want this random start value to just store a random number between 0 and 4, like it's kind of like a coin toss. So I kind of figured out how to do that, so I'm just going to quickly Google how to make that work. And simply I'm going to do how to get random number in Unity C#. Here I will see we have this this script right here. If you ever see scripting API under Unity under doc.unity3d.com, this is your golden resource for coding. Because this tells you exactly the code you need to make things work. And you'll see right here we have random.range. If I scroll down, I can see an example of this where we have the random.range and we have two values here, -10 and +10. This code right here, random.range, is the exact code we need to actually make a random number inside of Unity. One quick thing to note: this random.range is actually a float value, but I can actually trick it to be an integer value here. So I'm gonna go here and I'm gonna go back here. So I'm back in the script, and if I want to make a random number, I'm just gonna do random.range, and I'm gonna get between two values. I'm gonna do 0 and 4, like that. When I save this, it'll work, but just to show you guys an example, I'm going to do debug.log, and it's going to get that value, just to show you guys what that looks like. So, when I run the program, you see that the first number inside that was 0. Second number, if we go down here, is again 0. Third number will be a 1, but you see the number changes here. So this is showing us what that random number is. Now that we know that the random number is working, I'm going to go here, and it's going to simply create a condition where they check if that number is less than a certain number, it'll go in one direction. Otherwise, it will go in a different direction. What I do is something you're going to do if, and I get the variable random start is less than 2. I want to keep going in the same direction it's been going in, which is to the right. Else, I'll have that go to the left. So I'm going to paste the same code in here, but instead make it negative, like that. So now when we run the program, it'll check, hey, if it's less than 2, it goes one way, else or otherwise it will go a different way. I'm going to run the program like so. Cool, the number was not less than 2, so it went that way. But if I run the program again, the number will be less than 2, and it will go that way. Alright, boom. So that worked out perfectly fine. So we have that first part working. Now let's go back into here. Let's take a look at the second part. So we know we randomized the number. Now we want to create a way for the ball to be reset back to its original position when it touches the goal. So the way we do that is we want to focus on a different script now. We focus on a goal script. And the reason why we want to check if that ball object touches the goal, we want to do something. And we know we had all that interaction happen on our goal script. Double click in here, and let's focus on here. Now, if I want to change what happened to another object inside the script, I first need to create a reference to that object. The way I do that, right below the text message bar, I'm going to press enter, and I want to create a reference to a game object in our scene. I'm going to do that by just doing game object, capital G, capital O, and I'll call this Pong ball. What this is going to do is it's going to create a reference to our Pong ball in our scene. Because it's public, I can actually access this variable inside of Unity. And I'm just going to simply click on our Pong ball, click it, hold it down, and drag it into this field right here. Like so. Alright, now that my reference has been created, I am going to modify that Pong ball. So, as soon as the Pong ball hits the goal, so I'm going to go down to the onTrigger enter 2D function. After I change the score, I am going to simply get the Pong ball reference. So I'm getting the Pong ball game object. And I'm going to go inside that game object. I'm going to get a certain component here. Now, when I'm talking about moving something inside of Unity, I want to get the transform component. More specifically, I want to get the transform position. The move transform. And now inside the transform component, I'm going to get the position property. And I'll assign that to be a new vector, and do vector 3, why not? And make it 0, 0, 0. Now, why did I do vector 3 instead of vector 2? I can actually use either or. I can use vector 2, and this will still work exactly the same. Instead of using vector 3, it'll work exactly the same. Reason why I did vector 3 just because I want to show you guys that even though we've been working with 2D objects this entire time, if we look at something like the transform component, right? There are 3 values here, x, y, and z. All vector is just a direction, and there are 3 directions inside Unity. There's the x direction, the y direction, and the z direction, which you can't see in 2D mode, but z is basically back and forth. If I want this bar to be reset, I just want to make sure that every single direction is zeroed out or at 0, so that I know it's reset back to its original position. Again, you can use vector 2 or vector 3. It doesn't really make a difference. I'm just using vector 3 in this case. And when you save it and run it, you'll be good to go. So when I run the program, if it touches this goal right here, it can be reset back to its original position. And that worked. So we're basically almost there. There's only one last thing we need to do. You notice that after it hits the goal once, it doesn't really make go in a random direction anymore. Let's make that actually happen. So really quickly, I'm just gonna make another goal for the player 1, just so I can show you guys how this all works and all plays out. Let me set the text to be this one, like that. Just so you guys can see how this all works out. So, right now, if the ball touches the goal, no matter what, it's always going to go in the same direction it started with. If I want to go in a different direction and choose a random number each time like it did when we first started it, we're going to go back inside the script. So we went back inside our Pong ball movement script. Here's what we are going to do. Right now, we have this code working only when I start the game. So after I start the game, it shows them in the direction it wants and just kept it moving. What I want to do is I want to actually make it so that each time, I want to create a function so that each time I reset the game, it resets the ball's random direction. The way I do that, I'm going to go down here and I'm going to create a function. Now, I want to make this function public. Reason being so I can access it inside of other scripts. I'm going to void, and I'll call this reset Pong, like that. So public void reset Pong. The way I'm going to reset it is I'm just going to get the same exact code that I have up here. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to press Control C to copy, paste it into here, and save it. Now, that's really all I have to do. I just want to create a custom function, resetting Pong, that whenever the function is used, it resets the Pong game. So, with that being said, I made the custom function here. Now I'm going to talk about how we can actually use it. So, we have our function inside of a Pong ball movement script, but I want to actually access it inside the goalie script. Here's how I'm going to do that. Because this ball movement script is attached to our Pong ball, I can just go to the reference that we created to our Pong ball in here and just get that component. So I'm going to do Pong ball dot get component. When I'm inside the component, I'm going to get the name of the script, which I called ball movement. The script might be called something different, and that's okay. That's perfectly fine. Whatever your script is named, put that in there. So if your script was named Pong ball movement, just change it from Pong movement to Pong ball movement, and you're good to go. If whatever the script you named to control your Pong ball, that's what's going to go inside this here. Now, I'm going inside this script right here, right? And remember, the dot controls control if you can go inside of an object or not and see what's happening in there. The cool thing about this is when I actually made all my variable public up here, I didn't make any public variables here, but if I made anything that I made public here can be accessed inside of this script here. So because I made that reset Pong public, I can just type reset Pong and trigger that function to work. When I save this, and go back in here, it'll touch the goal, and whenever it does, it'll simply trigger that function to work again. If it ever goes in a different direction, will it? Hey guys, so apologies for that. I figured out why the game wasn't working before and why it didn't reset properly. And it's actually a pretty simple fix to solve it. So when we ran our program the last time, we noticed that the ball was somewhat reset, but it would kind of keep going in the same direction it was going in, right? And it wasn't really doing what we wanted it to do. The reason for that is actually kind of simple. Whenever we run this program, let's actually take a look at what the code is doing. So let me go to the goalie script right here and just look at what's happening. Whenever the ball hits the goal, it resets it back to its original position, and then it resets the Pong game. So each time the ball hits the goal, it resets back to 0, and it triggered the Pong game to apply force to the object, which is controlled through this script right here. But what's happening is, the reason why it kept acting a little bit wonky is the only thing that happened when we reset the Pong ball is it moved back to its original position, but it still had that same velocity that it had, right? So if the ball was going like 5 to the right, if it continues to keep going, if it reset, it'll keep that same velocity, and it just add that velocity onto whatever the new change in velocity is. The simplest way to think about it is an object in motion stays in motion. This object, when it reset, was already in motion, so we're just adding force to whatever motion was already happening. If we want to fix that, what we want to do is we want it to be that whenever the game resets, we want there to be no velocity on the object. The way we do that is inside the reset Pong script. Before we change the direction, we want to just get the rigid body 2D component and make sure the velocity is zeroed out so that there's no movement. The way that I do that is I'm going to get component, rigid body 2D, dot velocity, and we want to set that to be a new vector to 0, 0. This basically sets it so that there is no velocity on the object whenever it resets. Now when we run this program, this part will work perfectly fine. So now keep the same velocity, and if it changes direction, it'll go in that direction properly, like that. There we go. Cool. All right, with that being said, we were able to polish up the reset script for the Pong ball. The only last thing I want to show you guys is just how we can set a goal score, and that's really it. So here's what we'll do. I'm going to go to this goalie script right here, right? And what I'm going to do is inside this goalie script controls the score, right? What I'm going to do is inside the update, I always want to check if the score, so if score is greater than or equal to, what value do we want to give it? Let's give it a value of, I don't know, 3, why not? So if the score is greater than or equal to 3, we are going to figure out what player it is, and then we're going to say this player won. Here's how we can figure out what player it is. We can do it one of two ways. We can simply just create a public variable, a public string variable, player name, or we can do another way, but I think this is the easiest way to do it. Just make a string variable for the player's name and say, hey, if the score is greater than or equal to 3, let's just say, hey, debug.log, and whatever the player's name is, and just say wins. That's it. That's all we gotta do. So now inside of here, we can go into the script, into Unity, click on our goal. Now we have a variable for the player's name, right? What I can do is I can, one second, I can just get this player's name here. So I'll call this player 2 will win this one. And then I go here, and if player 1 will win. And when I run the program, first player to get 3 points. 1. Oh no, it's coming so slow. We reset it. So first player gets 1 point, 2 points, and 3 points. Boom. And now, because player 1 scored the goal that many times, that means player 1 won, and you see it right here. That's the easiest way to do that. And then you can do the same thing for this other one. And that's really it. That's the simplest way to get the goal going. Alright guys, that's really it. There are some last minute polishing things that I can show you. And I'm not going to actually save that for this video. I'll just have additional videos to show you guys how to polish it even more. But that's really it for this game. You have a way to win. You have a way to get the points, so on and so forth. You're good to go. Alright guys, I'll see you guys in the next video. And if you need any help, please reach out.